says,
mm,
who's doing lunch today? And everybody walks over to this
mm,
little deli. It's like a couple buildings away, and picks up a sandwich and comes back and eats in our kitchen space together. And that's a space where people are brainstorming about cases and kind of pulling
mm,
about case strategy, or I need an expert in this case and I don't have one. Has anybody worked with this type of person before? But also just fellowship and talking about life and TV and kids and all these things. So
mm,
that kind of collaborative environment that is not overly hierarchical and
mm,
that is really embracing like interpersonal relationships
mm,
and group kind of
mm.
strategizing, all of that is baked into what we do. And it's not just attorneys who do that either. It's everybody at the firm.
So today we have a very special guest with us. She's a trial lawyer, and she has just been handling the reins of Cooper Elliott. She also was two-time federal law clerk and a former teacher, which is interesting because I've been a teacher myself in my early career.
Uh,
So thank you so much, Kaela, for joining in today. It's a pleasure having you today on my show.
Thanks for having me.
So, Kaela, I just want to start with your journey here. How did you A lot of people find it very difficult to transition between different roles, right? But you were a teacher helping kids, and then you became a federal clerk, and then you transitioned to a partner, and now you're a managing partner of a very prestigious firm. So, how did you manage all that in a very short span of time?
Well, I'll say I think a lot of what I learned as a teacher and as an educator prepared me for being a lawyer, which was kind of a surprise for me. I thought that when I changed careers that it would be sort of a clean break and that there wouldn't be a lot that transferred over. But I think being a trial lawyer and being an advocate in the education system are not all that different. You're really relying on close personal relationships. You're helping someone through a really difficult institutional framework and helping them try to find justice or meaning through those institutions. Trial work itself, you're on your feet, you're in front of a jury. They don't
Mm,
necessarily want to be there. They don't necessarily know a lot about the law or like your particular facts in your case. And it's your job to engage them and to teach them why your client deserves justice. So it was a smoother transition than I imagined it would be. Honestly, I went to law school thinking I was going to be an education lawyer. I
mm,
spent a decade advocating for kids in high poverty neighborhoods. And I really loved
mm,
that work. And then when I got to law school, I realized I really wanted to litigate and kind of found
mm,
my home in plaintiff side work. And as for being managing partner now, I spent a couple of years before law school directing a nonprofit that served public
right.
schools. And a lot of those skills really overlap with, leading a firm. Nonprofits and firms are obviously different, but there's a lot of parallels too.
Right. So obviously that's pretty interesting that somebody who's been a teacher and then transitions into something that is a managerial role. It's difficult,
Hmm.
obviously, to uh, manage a law firm. I want to know what aspects in the early career has it really helped you, uh, and still helping you today when you're managing a firm, whether it's the determination, tolerance. What is it that makes you different than people who just go through a linear path?
That's a good question. I a couple things came to mind right away. I actually got my start teaching through a program called Teach for America,
Mm,
and so the people going through that program didn't necessarily have a background in education. So they give you a crash course in how to teach and how to be effective in schools that are tough to work in. And a big part of that framework is it's all about leadership. Um,
mm,
and I still carry a lot of those things that I learned through that program with me
mm,
today. Backwards planning being a huge one, like really thinking about starting with the end in mind. Where are we going? A clear vision for a long term goal, and then breaking that down into milestones, and then breaking those down into, monthly, weekly, even daily actionable steps. That
mm,
same framework is what led me to be successful in the classroom, and it is very similar to what I do now, as a leader of the firm, and within my
mm.
individual trial practice too. Um,
Right.
yeah. I also
So
just think being really organized and an excellent project manager really matters a lot. I mean, these are basic
yeah,
skills that,
yeah,
a lot of people have, but
yeah.
I think they are, you could say a lot about drive and determination and grit and resilience, but I think some of these more concrete, just work professional skills really
Mm.
matter too.
Yeah, that's actually correct because obviously these skills are important for any leader actually, not
Hmm.
just not just teachers or lawyers. But Kayla, I want to know 6 months ago you took the reins of a firm that has been dominant for I think over 3 decades now,
Yeah.
uh, and every legal consultant that is there right now is screaming at managing partners, probably emailing them that automate everything with AI, right? That's one of
Yep.
those things that everybody's saying. But I recently saw a post on your LinkedIn that you're hiring a paralegal. Why?
Yeah. I think one thing that makes our firm really unique and stand out is the level of care and relationships that we give to our clients. So I was actually just at this workshop in Atlanta for law firm owners
Mm,
about, this was in particular focused on marketing, but in the off times, everyone's talking, kind of trading, what are you doing in here? What are you doing there?
mm,
And we were talking about how our support staff has really grown significantly in the last year. And the first question I got was, "Are they onshore or offshore?" And I was like, What? No, they're in our office. Like every single person is in our office."
yeah.
Um, not to say that there's anything wrong with going a different route, but I think for us, having real people who can connect with our clients and really be there for them is sort of central to who we are and what we do. Not to say there's plenty of room for AI and there's plenty of room for some automation of
Mm,
tasks, but our clients, we're a complex personal injury firm.
mm,
So our clients
mm,
are going through the worst thing that they're ever going to go through in their lives when they come to us.
mm,
They or their loved one has either died or been in some kind of
mm,
catastrophic injury. And when you're
mm.
going through that, it turns your whole world upside down.
Yeah.
And so you really need, I mean, our clients need direct lines of access to the people working on their cases. And we want to give that to them because the legal process is stressful and they're already handling and navigating a lot of other stress related to
Mm,
the whole reason that they've become our clients to begin with. So, excuse me. Yeah, I think that's really why. I mean, we feel pretty strongly about still having case managers and people working on the cases, in person and real human touch.
mm. Right. And is this associated with being an older law firm that obviously the workforce there may not be really willing to adapt to the new changes? Or is it just that you are focused on helping clients probably going through a big tragedy right now and through humans only? So,
Yeah.
in these 6 months, have you faced like sort of an opposition by the workforce itself that we don't want to adapt to the new changes or AI in general?
No, I mean, I think generally, no. I think, there are people who we are all used to doing things a certain way. And so
Mm,
change initially feels a little bit clunky because you slow down before you speed up.
mm,
Um,
mm,
but I think our team has been really embracing of new technologies and ways to make the whole system run faster. I wouldn't say that the firm or even
mm,
individuals at the firm are resistant to that.
mm,
I think for us, it's just about where are we going to capitalize on efficiencies that you get through some of these new technologies, and what are some
mm,
things that we want to keep in place so that we maintain our identity as a firm. And for us, central
mm,
to our firm and who we are and how we want to serve people is through
mm,
really close personal touch. So, we hear about bigger firms that have more automation, but you also
mm,
hear their clients getting frustrated by, like, I've had
mm,
four different
mm,
attorneys on the file and
mm,
three different staff members, and I never
mm.
talked to any of them. And I feel like I'm just getting passed, my file's just getting passed around this group of people I don't even know. And that's just not the experience we want our clients to have.
Right, exactly. And I think that does resonate with one of the posts you've recently put in, where
Mhm.
you said when you started the school, it was actually the part of your story that you tried to downplay.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
watched classmates pick up on things about legal world that weren't initially intuitive to you. Uh, that they seem confident, and you were figuring out as you went, right? So
Yeah.
are you do you still go through the same process today? Are you still trying to figure out things? Or do you have made a process which you now follow?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are all still figuring things out as we go. I hope that's true. I think if you, at least for me, I think one of my huge draws to becoming an attorney, and the reason I love having a really broad set of types of cases that I work on, is that it pushes me to always be learning and growing and
Mm,
and evolving. So I am not a person who ever just wants to kind of coast. But I do think I have
mm,
a real process and framework now for how I approach legal work and how I
mm,
approach leadership too. Um,
mm.
yeah, it took me some time, and actually, I think I had those things even in law school from my previous career. I just didn't understand their value at that point.
Yeah, that's correct. Now, Kaela, I wanna basically move towards a very important topic for those people who are just entering into legal industry, or they've just started their law school, right? So from this post, a lot of people tend to follow a lot of advice on YouTube, maybe on LinkedIn, but they do get lost in the middle because they might not have the same dynamics as the person who's giving them the advice. So if there's a young person who wants to get into law today, right? What should they actually do, and what kind of advice should they be following?
You mean if they want to get involved in the legal field?
Yeah, yeah.
I think wow. I think one of the most important things, and this applies again, it's pretty universal, but I think really knowing yourself and really knowing what your values and
Mm,
priorities are in your career is what you should keep at your heart. Because, like you said, there's a lot of different advice, there are a lot of different perspectives, and I don't think law schools do a great job of teaching lawyers how to really be aware of their own individual priorities. I think it's really easy to get sucked into sort of
mm,
um, kind of conventional wisdom about the path that you should pursue. It even happened to me when I was in law school, and I didn't start law school until I was in my 30s. And
mm,
I had a pretty strong sense of self, and I really knew what I wanted out of my career. And I still kind of got pulled to this narrow
mm,
path that is held out to law students as being like the best way to pursue a legal
mm,
career, which
mm,
tends to be going to a large defense firm and trying to
mm,
build your way up to partnership in one of those firms.
mm,
I am lucky that I found my fit, and I really think that the only reason
mm,
I found somewhere that I truly love working is because I just
mm,
kept coming back to, okay, I hear these people who are well-meaning and brilliant
mm,
and very knowledgeable. I hear them all telling me to go in this direction, but it really does not feel like it's my path. And
mm,
I think I just stayed true to myself. And I think that, yeah, I think this applies to basically any industry where you're getting multiple different advice from multiple different perspectives. But at the end of the day, to like really find satisfaction and joy and fit out of your career or out of any choice you're making requires just like really strong self-awareness and
mm.
loyalty to who you are at the end of the day.
Mm. So, do you think this all happened by sheer luck, or is there um, something behind that, maybe determination or a path that you've taken? Uh, a lot of people I talk to, they're not happy at their jobs, right? And they feel like that they have never been given a chance to prove themselves. How did you manage that?
Well, as far as, I mean, I definitely think like luck always plays a role in any kind of happy outcome, and we have, and I'm a big believer in sort of paying homage to that because
Uh,
yeah, yes, I also believe that hard work had a lot to do with me finding my fit and
uh,
also gaining this promotion that I recently got. But
uh,
also, there's always some luck involved when good things happen. I just believe that at my core, and I think it's important to be aware of that and grateful for that.
uh,
I um, I think as far as the sort of hard work or how you get to like a place where you really have good fit or good opportunity. I think for me it was two things. One, it was just being open to lots of different opportunities and that kind
uh,
of pathway to really like exploring what was going to be most ideal for me. But more importantly, I also think a big part of it was once I showed up here. Um, I was brand new to litigation. Like you said, I'd worked in the federal courthouse for a couple of
uh,
judges. I was super lucky to
uh,
start my career that way. But so I came in with like very strong writing skills, but really not
uh,
knowing how to practice at all.
uh,
And I think one thing that really helped is that uh, I had a lot of work to do and a lot of learning to
uh,
sort of embody. Um, and it would have been really easy to sort of put my head down and just grind on the work itself. But I think from day one, I also really focused on like, how am I building my connections? How am I making
uh,
sure people know the work I'm doing and to send work to me? How can I
uh,
be a leader in a firm I just joined by like observing here are some institutional things that I could lend my prior experience to and ideas that I can share even though I'm
uh,
brand new and doing that in a respectful and humble way, but kind of
uh.
just owning that space from day one, I think really helped me accelerate quickly.
Yeah, because this sounds like you've always been a I think critical thinker, and you've been
Mhm.
open to opportunities. That is why you could associate that some to luck, because I don't think luck happens for um without any reason. You have to be there
Yeah.
physically or mentally before something happens. So um do you think being a thinker, where when you go someplace to work in a large law firm, do you think that critical thinking is something that is a person that is given to a person on by birth, or is it something that you can gain over time?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think at my core, one of my like main kind of core beliefs is that we can all grow and improve. People come into any different kind of strength or form of intelligence with natural affinities or natural sort of strengths. But I think, yeah, I do think critical thinking is a skill that you build like a muscle, like just with
Uh,
repetition.
uh,
Just like weightlifting. The more reps you get in, and the more load you carry, and the more consistent you are with that, like the sort of muscle, so to speak, grows. And I think that's definitely true for any kind of mental discipline as well.
right. So before I move on to the next segment, I want to ask you one very important question.
Hmm.
I learned that you've been co-managing the firm with your managing partner, Abby, I believe, right?
Yes. Hmm.
So, uh, how is it, and how did you guys manage and segregate stuff that you do, or is it something that you do combined? So, what is this relationship? How you managing it, and how you making it so successful?
Um, yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, this is just one of those things where I think luck is definitely has just played
Uh,
into. Um, we just have such a great working relationship, and I think there's just such natural chemistry and trust between the two of us. Um, that developed really quickly, which is just that is a
uh,
very lucky thing. A different person, it may have been a totally different kind of working dynamic. But we both knew that we wanted to keep active trial practices, did not want to
uh,
stop serving clients. And the
uh,
nature of trial work is just that you are out of pocket. Like I'm actually in trial in a week. And so I will be
uh,
out of pocket completely from tomorrow through, a week and a half from now at least.
yeah.
And And this is a pretty short trial. Sometimes it's, several weeks where you're just completely out of pocket. So having someone who you can really trust and who trusts you and having that like kind of natural synergy with
mm,
is really important for that. Generally, we're both up to speed on everything and we really try to we think very differently and we have different strengths, but we
mm.
talk through all major decisions together and then we sort of figure out like, okay, you're going to go like break this off and kind of run with it and I'm going to do this and we're going to come back together but keep each other in the loop and make decisions together and it's just been really great.
Yeah, and it's like you said that you guys have different weaknesses and strengths, so that means
Hmm.
that the partner's weaknesses where you fill them as strengths, and then obviously it's vice versa, which is a great thing.
Yep.
So, um, a lot of
And it's also
when I
it's Oh,
yeah, yeah,
sorry, I
go
didn't
ahead.
mean to cut you off. I
No,
was
no,
just
no,
going to
go
say,
ahead.
it's, I think we are 50-50 if you zoom way out, but on the narrow, like in
Mm,
individual day or week or even month, we really trade off. Like sometimes like one of us will carry 80% of the business management and running of the firm. And the other
mm,
person is at 20% because they're in 20
mm,
depositions this month or
mm.
they're in trial or something's going on in their personal life or whatever. And so I think also having that like kind of flexibility and not keeping score just like in any relationship, right? It's
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
macro it balances out, but in the micro we just step in and help each other out.
Yeah, that's great, and I really wish you both really good working relationship forever. I believe. So,
Thanks.
Kira, I wanted to ask you a very important question. Where when I talk to a lot of attorneys, and they say we provide a lot of value to our clients, right?
Mhm.
And I often ask them that, what do you mean by value, right?
Mm.
But I've never asked this question, but it just when I was preparing for this interview, I wanted to ask you this. You do provide value to a client, but what is the value a client gives you that you want to work with them?
Oh wow. Well, I think um I think just trust is so important. So when I'm working with new clients in particular and starting to form that relationship, I need to earn that trust through physical presence, by through availability, by explaining the legal process, by making good decisions on the case and keeping them informed of all of that. And then in return, I think the trust that I get back is so useful. This just came up earlier this week. I had to make a tough strategic choice in a case that actually went against what the clients originally wanted.
Mm,
And I so I called them and I've been to their house and I've been sitting on their couch before and we've built that trust over time. But I called them and I was like, look, at the end of the day, it is your call. But my recommendation is actually to go this direction that you are not saying that you want to pursue because I think
mm,
the outcome in the end is going to be best if we go this route. And they were
mm,
like, all right, we defer to you. We trust you. Like you're the one who has the expertise in how this all goes. And so we're behind it. And I think that kind of trust, not because I always need to like get my way, but I think having that kind of both challenge from clients where like, I have this idea I'd like you to really consider, but then also
mm,
like partnership when we have to make decisions in litigation. I think that's really critical. I mean, the other thing is, I think part of the reason that I am so motivated to do the work I do is because I really feel like we are helping people through this tough moment in their life. And also, there's
mm,
an opportunity to have some broader change too. So, we want an outcome that's going to protect this family or is going to try
mm,
to, help them recover what they have lost.
mm,
But also, a lot of people are really interested in how do I avoid this happening to somebody else? How can we get
mm,
accountability so that the same kind of tragedy does not affect another family? And
mm,
so, what clients give back to is that broader perspective. And I think this is something I talk about all the time because I think there's a stigma or a stereotype about people who are plaintiffs in lawsuits being sort of in it for the money or greedy. And it's just not been my experience. I mean, I really
mm,
believe that almost all my clients come to me because um, they want some kind of accountability or some kind of change. And so getting to
mm,
partner with them on that to demand other kinds of reforms that go beyond this individual family, that's also something that like really motivates me and that my clients sort of give to me and to the
mm.
world by allowing that to be part of the outcome in their case.
Right. But a lot of times, and I'm not sure if you have had this experience, but when clients come in, usually they might not be very good natured. Maybe they're rude to your staff. Sometimes they don't pay their retainers on time, right? So, how do you ensure that you don't work with these kind of clients? And
Mm,
how do you know exactly how to score them before you onboard them? Because they
yeah,
could be your biggest headache in the long run.
it's true. I'm fortunate I haven't had really very many clients who fall into a category like that. You know, our intake process, and we work a little differently than a lot of other firms because for the most part, clients are not paying us retainers. We primarily work on a contingency
Mm,
fee basis.
mm,
Um, it- I will say before a case is accepted, the client has always talk to an attorney at least once and usually multiple times. So you get a flavor of, you know, sometimes, especially in the most complex cases, sometimes we're vetting those cases for months
mm,
before we take them on. And there's lots of points of contact. And
mm,
I don't have a rubric or a black and white sort of answer, but there are times you just get a sense of like, I don't think this is going to
mm,
be a good working relationship.
mm,
And sometimes that's enough for me to say, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to, I am not your fit, but I will help you
mm,
find a lawyer who might be able to help you. So
mm,
I think we've been fortunate in that because of our intake process, the way clients come to us to begin with, by the time they are sort of officially signed up, we already know them pretty well. Doesn't mean things don't come up unexpectedly.
mm,
Um, but I think the fact that we have that relationship forming starts before they're even, you know, and have signed an agreement,
mm,
it helps head off a lot of that. And I've certainly just declined what would
mm,
otherwise be strong cases because of sort of red flag behavior in individuals. So I think like if you're not going to be respectful to my
mm,
paralegal or my team, then we're not your lawyers. And so
mm.
we try to really do a lot of that vetting at the outset.
Right. And these clients, because Cooper Elliott is a old firm, right? So you might get a lot of referrals, right?
Hmm.
But uh, um, as far as I have noticed that you guys don't do a lot of social media. I didn't find consistent, videos or pages being maintained. So how do you actually ensure that there's a predictable pipeline that stays there? So at least you don't get any surprises at the end of the month.
It's a great question and it's a complicated answer, but you're right. A lot of our cases come to us through direct referrals from other attorneys. So we have strategic planning around how do we maintain and build new relationships
Huh,
so that people think of us when these kind of unique niche cases arise. We want to be top of mind among a lot of people who are,
huh,
either attorneys or
huh,
otherwise well connected out
huh,
in our community. So that's a huge
huh,
part of it. And then we actually, we don't do traditional social media in terms of like we're not on YouTube and we don't have a
huh,
huge Instagram following and things like
huh,
that. Um, but we are very strategic about marketing, and we have an incredible marketing officer and some really great local partners who help us be creative. This is one of those places where I think AI can be very helpful in terms of informing and providing data and feedback on how our efforts are either working or not working and how we adjust. So, our marketing efforts are pretty diverse and they definitely go beyond those direct relationships. But I think that will always be a central part of how we advert so advertise, so to speak, or get our
huh,
name out there and get cases
huh,
coming in. But yeah, I mean, I
huh,
will tell you as a leader of a firm that works on contingency, it's just there is you have to be comfortable with a little less predictability than some of
huh,
the more traditional like retainer firms or hourly billing
huh,
firms because It's really difficult to predict how much a case will resolve for, when it will
Mm,
resolve.
mm,
There's lots of potential delays. There's lots of, we do our best to create a predictive model on those things so we have a sense of
mm,
revenue that is coming in, but it's not easy. So we are very conservative about debt, and we make sure that we have a very healthy set of financial resources to kind of cover gaps when they arise. And
mm.
I think that's how most plaintiffs' firms have to operate.
Yeah, that is correct, and that's a good way to keep sort of a backup financials so that people get paid on time. But
Mhm.
one thing that I have noticed, and I'd like to know that when you're taking either marketing decisions or operational decisions, because now you are at the top seat. So I want to ask you, how do you how do you know when you got to hire somebody, and how do you know that which marketing channel is working for you, which isn't working for you? Is it based on intuition? Is it based on some data that you gather? Or the partners you work with, do they report you on this? So how do you do this?
On the marketing front, yeah, it's a combination of things. We have outside consultants who work with us who know more about marketing than I will ever
Mm,
know. And so
mhm,
I think in all things related to the business leadership of the firm, like relying on and in partnership with experts in those like kind of respective categories is really important. Um, Data obviously is helpful. Like we collect data from multiple different venues on our marketing efforts, whether it's through
mm,
Meta or Google or we have this call tracking system like that gives us feedback on like how people are finding us, and
mm,
not just how they're finding us, but like how the right types of cases are getting to
mm,
us and what channels are producing client interest in types of work that we don't do at all, and how do we refine those marketing efforts long term. And then a little
mm.
bit of it, I think, like all good things, a little bit of it is intuition or just vision that, the data is telling us this. We have this priority that may be a little bit out of sync with the data. And so, how do we, kind of balance all of these inputs so that it's not only objective, kind of black and white numbers,
Mm,
not only an external person telling us this is what we think, but just getting inputs from a lot of places and then, making the best decision you can with that information and adjusting as you go. On the
yeah,
hiring front, it's
yeah.
been similar, I would say.
Mm,
But we're growing, and so there's just lots of opinions about excuse me, kind of what the next hire should be, what position we need the most, what makes sense to, use on a more fractional basis versus have in-house. And those are conversations we're having all the time. And some of it is trial and error.
mm,
I officially was in the role in January, but Abby and I really started operating a lot of the day-to-day like middle of last year. And since that time, our non-attorney staff has doubled. So it's been
mm,
quick growth. And we've had some ideas for some new roles at the firm that have never been here
mm,
before.
mm.
And, we're still exploring whether long term that's truly what the need is or not. And things will evolve over time. And I think it's just, it's being decisive, charting a course forward, and then continually just sort of evaluating, is this the best fit? And should we be, honing this a little bit or going a different direction?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's interesting because um, a lot of law firm owners, they are pretty scared about increasing the head count, right?
Mhm.
Because because they kind of increase the revenues before they want to do this, and obviously they want to retain good people, right? So my question is, if you're growing and now you're increasing the head count, first of all, how do you find good people? How do you know that these people are right fit for the role? Because you've been in the hiring process just now. So, what qualities do you see, and what is the process of your hiring, so it can help my audience, law firm owners, to know if there's something they could learn from this?
Yeah, I mean, I think to find candidates, it's a combination of direct referrals. We do ask our team to, spread information within their
Mm,
networks, and a lot of times people come in through just that like longer term personal connection. We also sometimes work with recruiters, and we also use more traditional job posting,
mm,
platforms like LinkedIn and Indeed and things like that.
mm,
And then as far as like the process and what we're really looking for, I mean, we do have a pretty structured interview process that includes like written work product, lots of conversational interviews for like personality and fit, and then like a
mm,
technical verbal interview process too. But I think at the end of the day, this goes for entry level lawyers and also for
mm,
most of our support staff. Really, like it's mostly about mindset and kind of comfort and interest in being an engaged citizen of the firm, being proactive, being comfortable with being in a space that is very dynamic, and that is growing, and making sure people have that kind of willingness to embrace that that setting and that culture. Because there are a lot of people
mm,
who just prefer, and this is no knock to them, but who want to
mm,
be somewhere where everything is very structured, very predictable. Here are your 7 job responsibilities, and you won't stray from this, and that's not who we are. So I think for a lot of people that's very exciting and that's appealing, and so it's just finding those
mm,
people who are going to thrive in that kind of
mm.
environment.
Yeah, and you talked about culture just now. I have a very important question here. There's a there's a saying that culture eats strategy any day, right?
Hmm.
Could you tell me if do you believe in that, and is it the same for you within your law firm?
I do believe that. I think culture is just absolutely critical, and I think we have some really unique, sort of unofficial or just baked in cultural features that really make this place what it is. Unlike most, I don't know of a single other legal environment that is like this, but every single day, I mean, truly every day of the week around noon, somebody starts making the rounds and
Mm,
says, "Who's doing lunch today?" And everybody walks over to this
mm,
little deli. It's like a couple buildings away, and picks up a sandwich and comes back and eats in our kitchen space together. And that's a space where people are brainstorming about cases and kind of pulling
mm,
about case strategy, or I need an expert in this case and I don't have one. Has anybody worked with this type of person before? But also just fellowship and talking about life and, TV and kids and all these things. So,
mm,
um, that kind of collaborative environment that is not overly hierarchical and
mm,
that is really embracing like interpersonal relationships
mm,
and groups kind of
mm,
strategizing, all of that is baked into what we do. And it's not just attorneys who do that either. It's everybody at the firm. So, I love that when I walk through the kitchen around lunchtime, there could be, 15 people sitting in the kitchen eating lunch together, and it's all different positions, all different
mm,
generations and perspectives, and just like really that coming together. And I think those sorts of moments, or that kind of culture does beat strategy. Because could we all sit at our desk and eat lunch and get another hour
mm.
of efficiency out of the day? We could.
Yeah.
But I think that the value of that cultural feature ends up trumping whatever you could get that's like more, objective out of that same period of time. And I think that applies to a lot of things around our firm.
And that's really amazing. And honestly, I just felt like I should actually come to your office and work.
You are welcome. We have a beautiful space and a lot of extra workspaces available. So, yeah,
Yeah.
you'd be welcome to
Thank
come.
you. Thank you for the invitation. Now, I want to know this very important point for anybody who's listening. Why should they choose Cooper Elliott over any other law firm right now?
I go back to, and there's a lot of reasons, but I think the
Mm,
two things that I go back to over and over are one is just that personal care and service that we give to our clients that I've talked about already. I mean,
mm,
I think our lawyers are really good people, like really good human
mm,
beings who really care about the people that they are serving and working
mm,
with. And, it matters. Like since we've been sitting here, I've gotten 2 text messages from different
mm,
clients.
mm,
I'm available to my people, and they know that,
mm,
and that, I draw some boundaries with it in the evening time to protect my, space with my son and that sort of thing. But
Mm,
um, I think, we are lawyers who will be on your couch talking you through the process, who will be in the hospital waiting room with you,
mm,
who are available to you by cell phone.
mm,
Just having that level of personal touch, I think, makes litigation a little easier to bear. And it is
mm,
hard no matter what. So I think that's one huge thing. The other thing I'll say
mm,
is we just have such a talented team. A third of our lawyers have been federal law clerks. Another
mm,
third have worked in large defense firms before coming here. And then the other third has like this super interesting mix of very diverse backgrounds. And I think,
mm.
um, when so much is on the line, when you're trusting a firm with your family's livelihood and with their protection, you want to know that not only are they going to treat you
mm.
well and be there for you, but that they've got the chops to make it happen and to get a great result. And I think our firm has both of those things.
Great. I honestly, that's the most important part, I think, because in any high distress situation, if your lawyer is humanly there, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
But Kayla, I honestly, I really enjoyed the conversation today with you. But I might have missed few things that I might have, not asked you. Is there something you want to share with my audience today?
Oh, wow. I guess, well, wow, it's such a broad question. I'm trying to think about. I guess what I'll say to anybody who's aspiring to the legal profession is that, I got very lucky and also through hard work, excuse me, found my fit at Cooper Elliott and within like a sophisticated plaintiff practice. I think that is available, like finding that kind of similar fit for you and your story is available to anyone, whether you're a lawyer, an aspiring lawyer, another legal professional. And so my advice more broadly, I guess, is just to be creative and think outside the sort of big law lane that is so often held out as the best option, because there
Hmm.
are a lot of really beautiful ways to practice the law that can make you a happy lawyer and give you a life that you really enjoy if you kind of stay persistent about finding that fit.
That note of staying persistent in finding the
Hmm.
right fit. Thank you so much, Kayla, for giving us your time today.
Thanks
I
for
really
having me.
appreciate. Yeah, thank you so much. I hope that I will talk to you again very, very soon. Have a nice day.
Likewise.
Bye.
Thanks. Take care.